Good evening to everybody that's out there and decided to come and hang out with G's 101 tonight. We do appreciate y'all. It's another Sunday night with G's 101. I actually didn't log in last week because I was actually at a wedding. My little cousin got married. So, nonetheless, here we are. We back. We are back. So, like I said, appreciate y'all for hanging out. So we'll actually wait. We'll give it about 5 minutes to allow people to get notifications. And those that would like to, check in and holler at us tonight. We like to, allow them to get an opportunity to see the notification and chime in. So we'll just give it a few minutes. We're gonna just give it a few minutes. It was a very interesting week, so I'd like to jump right into the topics once we hit that 5 minute mark. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And like I said, I missed last week because I was at a wedding because my little cousin got married. So she had a very nice wedding. It was in the middle of like northern PA, so it was like really like in the woods. You know what I mean? It was really in the woods. So it's about an hour and a half from me, north. Probably about an hour and a half north. I want to say like north. I went like northwest maybe. Yeah, like near the Poconos. People that know what the Poconos mountains are, it's a little bit past the Poconos. So to make it make sense for some. I also was under the weather. I had like a little cold and a cough I couldn't get rid of. And that was due to the nasal drip. I still actually got some of that, but I'm a lot better now than I was before. So, interesting topic for tonight because we're gonna get into fat-free mass. We're gonna get into muscle sparing. Hey Z, how you doing? How are you? Good to see you here on Sunday night. Like I said, this is why I wait till like the 5 minute mark because I give people opportunity to actually get these notifications to the phone. For people that have the notification set, I like them to have an opportunity to see so that way they can chime in and we don't start before them. So that's why I allow it to go 5 minutes before I just start talking. So nice. So where are you from originally, Z? Like where what part are you from? Part of the world are you from? Oh, you from Jersey? Okay, Brick City, Jersey, right? Because some people probably wouldn't know what that is when you just say Brick City. I'm familiar because I'm from Philly, Newark. Yeah, Newark. So I mean, since I'm from Philly, you kind of know that I know because I went to college. Even though I went to college in Philly with some friends that came from Newark. So and then I was heavily into the hip hop scene early on. So with that, there was a lot of Brick City people, and you had Method Man, Red Man, stuff like that. So anybody that's in the hip hop know, Red Man used to rep Jersey, heavy way in like 20 years ago when they was, or 25 years ago now when they was popular. You know what I mean? So, yep, Brick City. Wow. Okay, so you, so you from the rough and rugged, Brick City, Brick City. I mean, I wouldn't call it Philly, but I know it could get a little. Um, I think probably the most rugged part that I know about in Jersey, that most rugged in my opinion, is probably Patterson. Patterson is probably I think that's kind of up where like Fetty Wap and them from. Yeah, I think that's where like Fetty Wap and them from. I don't know how old you are, but those that are like in their 40s and early mid late 40s, that's kind of like who I'm talking about, even in 50s. So that's the error. That's the error. So. Oh, okay, yeah. So you actually a little older than me, so you definitely know because yeah, you was a early '90s girl. So yeah, you definitely you go back to Naughty by Nature. You from the Naughty by Nature, Queen Latifah, all that era. You know what I mean? When they was repping and running Jersey, Queen Latifah, Naughty by Nature, all those people. So that was your OPP. You know what OPP? Yeah, you know me. Who that with OPP? Yeah, that was an era. The bubble coats, the boots, and the earrings, and all of the stuff. All of the stuff. So absolutely. Wow. Ain't that something? Well, it is now 6 minutes after, and we are going to go ahead and get started. If you actually in here watching in the chat, please take the moment and just smash that thumb so that way we get those likes up. Wow, we went to school with Queen Latifah. Nice, nice. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Queen Latifah is like obviously iconic, in hip hop, but she also was a super duper smart businesswoman, and I'm pretty sure you might know, like, you know what I mean? Like you and her are the same era, so like you definitely like know like probably know how smart she was, like with her money, you know what I mean? Like with her buying her house, at I think she was probably like 19 when she bought her first house. So she been stacking away some good money for a long, long time. So and she carried that in the business when she started doing her shows with Living Color and all that. I mean not Living Color, with Living Single and everything. So she was, with executive producing that and everything. So that was another big show, obviously in the '90s. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. But she definitely did amazing with her money, with the movies and all that stuff. So she was super smart coming out of Jersey, So there's some really smart people that came up out of Jersey. All right, guys. So like I said, smash that thumb and hit that bell so that way you get notification when it is that we do go live. And tonight, as you seen in my title, we want to talk about fat-free mass. We want to talk about muscle-sparing GLP-1s because the GLP-1 treatments are going to actually move smarter. They're going to move from just weight loss to being smarter medical weight loss drugs. From just simple weight loss. Well, I don't even want to say simple because these are complex, highly respectable, powerful drugs. But where they're going is in a way where you're going to lose smart, like, so, because we all talk a lot about, well, a lot of us, not all, but a lot of people talk about muscle, namely, me for sure. I always tell people about muscle because muscle is very, very important. You definitely want to make sure that you are, protecting your muscles, and the best way to do that is to resistance train and actually get enough protein, right? So, and resistance training, which are the words that we all hear constantly, right? Resistance train, protein, 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 protein. But it's super important because that's really the basis of everything. You lifting and you doing a resistance training is because it's pretty much telling that muscle that it's needed, right? So that's why the muscle will be last to go because your body is telling, your system that it needs to hold on to that muscle. And that way, when you actually go to start losing weight, it will be fat and not muscle. So, which I'll get into my numbers. Actually, me and my wife, because I haven't did an update on her. I'll do an update on her for you guys and let you know where she stands. We had probably this is the best week I've had in a long time, and this is probably the best week, one of the best weeks she may have ever had, with her weight loss. So I think, so I definitely want to talk about that. But we both had big drops this week. We had big drops, and my drop, before we get well off into the muscle, I'll actually just do the update. I'll start with the update. So I'm actually at the lowest weight probably I've been, which is I'm 214 right now. I think I tapped 214 earlier, but I'm not sure. I know my scale says 215. Right? So I know that happened. My scale does say, like, my Renfo does have me at 215 way back on May 9th. So I did hit 215 prior, way back when, but on was it May 9th or was it June? It might have actually been June. It might have been, I think I hit 215. I think back in June I hit 216. probably in May. I'll check, before the end of the call. But basically, right now I'm 214. So this is the lowest weight I've ever been. I mean, in recent memory, I'll say that. I mean, obviously, I've been 214 at some point in my life, but I probably was a kid. You know what I mean? As a grown man, no, I don't recall being 214 unless I probably could take it back to, like I said, high school. But again, that was as a kid. You know what I mean? And I mean early on in high school, probably like when I'm talking about like 14. You know what I mean? That's probably, which would be 30 years ago, that I probably would have been 214 pounds. Which is where I'm at right now. And that is, just amazing. But the way that I'm at 214 is different than before, because what I'll say is right now in my journey, what I'm doing is I'm doing a lot more weightlifting than ever before. I've never lifted weights like I'm lifting right now in my life, probably. You know what I mean? Because I'm lifting like 4 days a week, sometimes five. So and I'm actually moving up in weight. You know what I mean? So, and I'm seeing it because my recount, like my body is like way different. You know what I mean? Because the scale for me had really kind of like settled and kind of stuck between 218 and 219. Like every week I was like going 218, 219, 218, 219, 218, 219. I was doing that every week and I'm like, wow. But I wasn't upset because my clothes kept fitting better and better and better. And I was still in smaller sizes, and my waist, my pants, I had to like really, you know what I'm saying? Like really, really tighten up, So I know that I was losing the right way. You know what I mean? I wasn't just, I wasn't losing muscle. I'm losing body fat. You know what I mean? I wasn't losing total weight, total body weight. I was losing fat, and that's the thing, and even my body fat percentage is at a 22 now, but for some time it was at between 24 and even 25 at one point, so at a 22, I know that the right recomp is happening, and my Renfo WHR, waist to hip ratio, is saying 0.88 or 0.89, one of them, you know what I mean? So, which is really good, low risk, for men. If you just entered the stream, just make sure you take a moment and smash that like button, so that way, the algorithm, knows that these are the type of videos that you like to see. And then make sure you smash that bell so you get notified when we show up here. Because we got there are a few, I see we got 4 likes. So we want to make sure like we hitting those likes if we in the chat. So the thing is, like I said, right now being at 214, and I was 218 last week, so I had a 3.6 pound, they call it whoosh, this week, because like I said, I had been floating for like almost a whole month. When I actually went on vacation, like I mentioned to most, I actually didn't take my pen for 1 week because I wasn't feeling well, because I had dropped down to like 215, I think, and the way I did it was kind of too fast, and it wasn't the right way, I feel like, and I didn't feel good. This time I feel great, you know what I mean? So I feel like I did it the right way, and it's primarily lifting weights. And believe it or not, like I said, because I had the respiratory issue going on, which I am a little clogged up now, just getting on video, unfortunately, coming down here. Because like I said, I shoot in the basement, and my basement is always like a lot cooler than everywhere else. So that kind of like, brings down that congestion, especially at night. But I actually, when I went on a trip back on July 3rd, we went on the 4th of July week. I actually didn't take my pen because I wasn't feeling well, and I went to the ER that day on July 3rd. And everything was fine, checked out, but I was just kind of low, not even, I want to say official low iron, but it was really my TIBC. TIBC is pretty much what it allows the red blood cells to kind of like formulate and carry that iron to the ferritin. It's like a whole thing there, and it really wasn't, it was kind of like borderline, and that realistically came from, or we could say vitamin B, but more so for me not eating appropriate, So, and then what I did was I didn't take my shot, and I allowed myself to gain weight. That's what I did. I literally allowed myself to gain weight. I ate more than usual. Because we was on vacation, so it was easy because you can eat, So it actually kind of worked out perfectly, because when me being on vacation, that's what you do anyway. So when I was on vacation, I had no worries because I wanted to actually gain a little bit of weight just to see how I would feel going back up. So I actually went from 215 up to 222, right? I let myself do that. And then what I did was I said, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lose this, I guess I want to say 6 pounds. I'm gonna lose it in a way, 6 or 7 pounds. I'm gonna lose it in a way that's gonna be slow but more fat than it is like muscle. I want to make sure I just lose fat. So what I did was I literally like just made sure that I'm getting the proper protein and all of that. But I also picked up the weights more and I increased my weights, and lifting those weights actually worked. You know what I mean? It's what I feel like got me to where I'm at right now. And some might remember I had an issue with my shoulder. So when I had the issue with the shoulder, it didn't allow me to lift the way I would like to lift generally. You know what I mean? So since I couldn't lift the way that I normally would like to lift, with that, because of that shoulder issue, I kind of like kept getting stalled. But now, thank God, I've actually been lifting really well and not have any problem. So that's what's actually helping my aesthetic, you know, my overall body to look like as good as it's starting to look. You know what I mean? It's literally like lifting those weights. You know what I mean? And I mean everything, because just looking in the mirror, like, you know, I'm looking good. So and I'm really religiously like lifting those weights. You know, and I'm getting, like I said, I'm lifting heavier and heavier. So today I got on the scale and I was 214 pounds. So I'm really excited about that, because most people know my ultimate goal is to be 200 pounds. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I like to live at, you know, 200. Because we all know you're not going to ever be the same weight all the time. So that means that some weeks I might be 197. Some weeks I might be 203 or 205. That's okay. I'm willing to live right in there, because my body fat percentage, I'm kind of shooting for, like I said, I'm at 22, but I like to be kind of around like a 16. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like, you know, really healthy. You know what I mean? I want to be like around the 16. I'm not trying to be like 10% shredded and all that. No, because that means I probably have to get down to like 190, and I'm sure, like, for me, I don't feel like I'll be comfortable getting that small. You know what I mean? Because in fact, in fact, I did say, if you were to go and actually look at the previous video, you know, that I did, I talked about, I think it was in my previous video. I did talk about like if I actually put my actual numbers in the chat GPT, and all of the different things, Google, all that, it all tells me that the standard BMI don't fit me well. You know what I mean? It's not it would be telling a lie. Like my BMI, like for me to get to a standard healthy BMI is 195 pounds. Like that's healthy, even though the BMI would still say for me 26. It would still say 26 if I got to that as a 6-foot male, but I would be at a healthy range, whereas some people have to get to 25 or like right below 25, 24.9. Me, I would actually still be at a 26 point something, but that's healthy for me. Why? Because of my muscle mass. Because I have higher than normal, higher than average muscle mass. You know, and what I mean by that is if I'm on my Renfo, my muscle mass comes back at 96 pounds, right? So the thing is, they have these just like they have the BMI calculator, they have something called FFM, which is it's FFMI, which is a fat-free mass indicator, right? So some people don't know about that. But the fat-free mass indicator, when I put my numbers in there, it comes back at a 22. Comes back at a 22. So, and then that graph, and I'll put that in my post. Like I tell people every week, generally what I do is I put the graphs in my post. So if you go look at my post, you'll see a ton of stuff. I got pictures, like me and my wife. I got all types of charts, graphs. Anything you want to know, I pretty much put it there. You can read it later, right? But I'll probably I'll put the site that you can go look at your fat-free mass on that. You know what I mean? Because that's where it is that I went, and that's how I found out like my actual muscle was like at a 22. So I gotta put them glasses on because I can't. Somebody, hey G in the chat, when you get to your goal weight, you still the same dose titrate down. Kim, that was from Kim. When I get to my goal weight, no, I'll probably. I mean, that's the thing. Like I don't see a reason. You know what I mean? Because my dose is literally a part of the tool, one of the tools that's a part of the plan. You know, I don't really have side effects. So for me, I mean, other than constipation, like normal regular stuff. So I don't see the point, you know, of me titrating down. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't believe in that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's fine. I don't have a problem with side effects, and you know, I get 3 months supplies. So, you know, I know a lot of people like go down. The general reason that somebody usually wants to go titrate down is because of side effects or financial reasons, you know, and neither one is an issue for me. So no, I'll probably stay right where I am because they shown in the maintain trial where you know, you needed to be on the 10 or the 15 to maintain the majority of your loss, right? So the worst thing I think you can do is get to a goal weight and then automatically start changing things. You know, I think you should do everything you did before. You know what I mean? And that's what's going to keep you there. Because if you change something, you know, that leads you down a path that you don't know what that looks like, you know. So, and I know that weight is going to be ever changing all the time. You know, you're never going to be one weight. I'm well aware of that. But obviously, we still got to have goals. So 200 is just a goal, right? And that's where I feel like I'll be comfortable living. But I already know I'm not going to ever be just 200 pounds all the time. You know what I mean? I'm going to be 195. You know, if I got sick, I might be 210. If I overeat for a few weeks. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, staying on 15 for 6 months now, maintenance with no problem. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Yes, you definitely want to just leave it alone, you know. And then people, especially people that's diabetic, like, because you got some people that's diabetic, you know, people like that. I'm not diabetic, but I know at Kim Maintains. Who did you change your name? Kim Maintains, or was it, or has it been Kim Maintains? I'm not sure because it's so many Kims. I'm just trying to figure out who that is. But basically, I know there's a lot of Kims, Pams. Certain people have, it's like a lot of that name. So I just be trying to like make sure like I see who it is that I'm talking to, because I probably talked to you before. But the name just didn't, you know, wasn't familiar for me. But no, so the thing is, I'm going to maintain right there. I'm not going to change nothing, you know, because looking at, like I said, my actual results, I'm really good. But the FFMI indicator, just like the BMI indicator, got an FFMI indicator. And I think that all of us should actually be willing to, you know, really start to like educate ourselves around that. Because I feel like on these journeys, as we get farther and farther, a lot of times we're not paying enough attention to muscle mass. You know what I mean? Because that's really the end all be all. It's the muscle mass. You know what I mean? We worry about the pounds on the scale, but you know that particular fat is really bad. You know, obviously we want to get that going, but at the same time, you want to make sure that usually in the bushes. Okay, all right. Oh, well, I'm glad you came out the bushes. You know what I mean? It's good to get interactions. You know what I mean? Hey, what's going on, Darian? What's going on? Yeah, it's good to get interaction. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times people just sit and listen. So interaction is good because it makes it more, you know, interesting, right? And you can get questions answered, you know, that way. Obviously, I do open it up for questions. So any questions you have, you can always feel free to put Q's in the chat. So yeah, so the FFMI is the fat-free mass. And we need to start talking about that a lot more, right? Because that's why I said I wanted to have this kind of conversation, because we all know that. I know you guys heard, oh, make sure you don't lose your muscle, right? But we need to take that conversation a bit deeper and really focus on that. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about when we say that? You know, what does that look like individually? You know, what does that look like for your body? You know what I mean? Like specifically. Like I know for my body, like I just said, I'm at a 22, which means my muscle is above average. So for me to go by a BMI, it's false. It's false. It's false. It's gonna have me at overweight even when I'm at a healthy weight for my body because of the muscle that I'm carrying, right? So because for my body and the muscle that I'm carrying, I wouldn't want to go. Once I hit like a 27, 26, 27, that's it. That's like my healthy range. And 198 kind of puts me at the brink of that, right? 198. Between 195 and 198 is where that 26, 27 is for me, right? But, you know, you need to have, you know, space in there, you know. So, because for me to be like, let's say absolutely shredded with 10% body fat, you would get to like a 190, but I wouldn't be, this even ChatGPT said I wouldn't be comfortable there, because you actually would have to be so rigid, you know, with your foods and things like that, you actually wouldn't enjoy it, you know. And that's what I be trying to tell people. So that's why I said 200 makes sense, right? 200 pounds makes sense because I can be more comfortable. Now, again, that's a goal. If I get to 205, I ain't mad. You know what I mean? Think about it, you know? And right now, like I said, I'm at 214. So I'm literally just 9 pounds away from that, you know? So honestly, when I was on here last week or the week before last, you know, I actually told people that I was just trying to lose 10 to 12 pounds, right? Because I am having a minimally invasive laser lipo with skin tightening probably next year, you know, probably most likely in February. Why? Because I feel like after you do all of this, right, and if you feel like you still have something that you feel like you can do that a little bit more to that probably won't go anywhere, and we just talking about subcutaneous fat, right? Because I've done a good job with visceral fat. My visceral fat on my Renpho right now says 8. So I'm in a healthy range because anything from 1 to 9 is healthy, right? Now, obviously, I like it to get a little lower, maybe be around like 5, right? But right now, it's an 8, right? 8-pack. I moved on from this community. Now, I don't think I'm ever moving on from this community, Darren. You know that. You know, there's none of that. Like, you know what I mean? We still what we are. You know, like losing weight don't change it. But the thing is, appreciate the congrats too. Yeah, 214 is like, oh my God. You know, being 214 is just amazing. So what I was saying was I am going to have a laser lipo next February because I feel like you need to get a medication about 2 years. And the lifestyle, you need a couple years. You know, I don't think it's something you do for weeks or months. You need to spend a few years. I think that's respectable. If you spend a few years on the treatment and you're doing all the stuff, you know, you kind of know that's kind of where you're going to probably end up, you know, because it don't take 5 or 10 years to know where you're going to end. But at the same time, you can't do it. Some people can, but not me. I don't want to spend 5 or 10 weeks or months. I'd rather spend a couple of years. And January 5th will make 2 years for me. So that's why I'm good with that. You know, that's my plan. My plan is to at least spend 2 years before I got any kind of thing. So I already had a consultation, me and my wife, and that's pretty much all it is that we talked about. Is just the trouble area of the abdomen and the flank, which is love handles, which is what some people would know better by saying love handles. So that's kind of what it is. You know, it's my love handles and my my abdomen. I don't foresee myself being able to you know, lose enough weight that it would actually completely eviscerate that spare tire to the point where obviously it's very, very small now. I mean, I have to take my shirt off for you to see it, but I would like to take my shirt off and not be there, right? And I know with everything I'm doing, I still would have to do that because of me being 319 pounds at one time, right? So this is called self-care. It's the same reason why some people that get, you know, severely obese have to get skin removal. They get skin removal because they were so obese that the skin, you know, droops. And a lot of us know about that. So for me, I don't have that, but I do have the spare tire that I don't think I'm going to get rid of, even if I go to my lowest comfortable weight. So that's why I'm okay with moving on and getting, you know, like I said, the laser lipo and skin tightening, you know, next year. But that's why I said I also wanted to still lose at that time 10 to 12 pounds, because I'll lose another 10 to 12 pounds getting that procedure, you know, because what it does is it takes about a gallon of subcutaneous fat off of you, you know. So my body fat percentage will drop about 4 or 5% just from that, and about 10 to 12 pounds. So if I'm at that time, let's just say hypothetically, you know, this is 6 months from now, right? I think that's 6 months, right? Yeah, it's about 6 months. About 6 months from now. I said February, yeah. So about 6 months, you know. Yeah. So at that time, I would actually, if I'm down, let's say 205, right? 207, 205, like somewhere in there, the lower twos, and I lose, you know, 10 pounds, it'll put me in the upper 190s, right? You know what I'm saying? You know, so even if, like, let's say I just stop losing weight at, like I said, 208, you know what I mean? Like I say, okay, after I lose another 5, 6, 7 pounds, I just stay there. And I'm at 207, 208, and I lose that weight, it'll put me at like 197, 196, which is healthy weight for me. That's healthy. I'm absolutely healthy. So that's my whole thing. You know what I mean? And I think that I could live in that space and be absolutely okay, right? So there you have it. That's my update, you know. Now, for my wife, because I did tell you I was going to update you guys on her. She also had a very good drop this week, and she is right now sitting at 142 pounds. Her weight when she started on Zepbound, she was 197. And that was because she had lost about 10 pounds on her own, just working out and eating right and doing all of the things. And that brought her down to 197 because her highest was like 206, right? 206, 207, right around there. And she had lost like 10 pounds on her own, you know. So she's lost over 50 pounds, you know, since, you know, starting at 197. And altogether, you know, I would say 60, you know what I mean? So I think that is absolutely, over, like a little over, you know what I mean, if my math is correct, you know what I mean. So I feel like that is like absolutely amazing, for her to go, to lose that much weight, because um, that's what 65, about almost 65 pounds. You know what I mean? Like 206, yeah, to be 142. Yeah, almost 65 pounds. So she's lost over 60 pounds since she started on her journey. And she's now down to 142. And this is her lowest, since being on. Her goal is 135. So I think because she hasn't hit her 1 year. Her 1 year will be September 5th, I'm pretty sure, because she started pretty much like 9 months after me. So yeah, September 5th. So she's about a few weeks, about maybe like 2-3 weeks away from her actual 1 year. You know what I mean? So I said that she would probably hit 140 when she get to her year mark. You know what I mean? Like way back when she started, I said, yeah, you probably gonna lose about almost 60 pounds. Once you get to that 1 year mark. And I mean, good Lord, I mean, at 2 years, she now we know the second year is a lot slower, and she's a smaller person. Small people don't lose a lot slower. So 135 is her ultimate goal. I think she could probably end up at 130, actually, like end all be all, you know what I mean? It'd be absolutely fine because we know she's 5 foot tall. So that's, super short. So at that, she's still really appropriate because her BMI goal would be a healthy BMI for her would be 127, right? And she don't want to go that small, and I'm not advocating that, but I'm just saying that is her being in the 130s is absolutely amazing, and it's a good thing, because that's where she's 142 now and probably still 3 weeks away from 1 year. Just imagine her at 2 years, you know what I mean? Which is where I feel like a lot of people settle out. They kind of flatten out at that 2 year mark, because a lot of the larger people, because when I hit my 1 year, I want to say I probably was, appreciate that, Z. Can't really remember. I think I probably was somewhere around 235, somewhere around 230, something like that. I think I was like 230, somewhere around there. So I've lost 15 pounds, in this, so yeah, I probably was around like 230, 232, somewhere around when I hit my year. So, and I was on the precipice of like getting to that 100-pound mark. But most people know I had that foot surgery, and that set me down for like 2 months during the holidays. So I think that like held me kind of at that weight. So I probably would have hit the 100-pound mark before then, but I feel like a lot of the guys, just from what I'm seeing, in that second stretch, you know what I mean? Because just like we seen in the extended trial with the retatrutide, we saw where people actually lost, more weight. They lost like additional 20 pounds. You know what I mean? And I think that's really true. Like, you know what I mean? Like for larger people. Now, smaller people like her, I think it's like more like 8 to 10 pounds. You know what I mean? In that second year. So that's why I'm saying I could really see her bottom out at like 130. Just because she at 142 now, and if you talk about taking the drug for a whole other year, she could lose 10 or 12 pounds, but I don't think she would go farther than that. It won't take her, much farther, but it'll be very good and appropriate, for her size because she looks, great now. But that's her. She had a really big week. Like I said, she went from 148 to 142. And because we have the Morpho Scan Nova, I'm actually able to dive in to her numbers like mine. And I can tell you it wasn't water, right? It wasn't water. It was actually fat. She lost a good deal of fat. You know what I mean? Yes. She appreciate that, Darren. She actually lost a good deal of fat. Not just it was not like just like not water weight. She actually maintained the water. It was really fat and then like minuscule muscle. Now, anytime you that small and you lose that amount of weight, you're gonna lose some muscle. But her muscle was like less than a pound. Is what I'm saying. Like she lost. It was literally like trivial. It might have been less than a half a pound. Is what I'm saying. And while she lost. You know what I mean? What's that? 6 pounds. You know what I mean? So that was a huge loss. But again, this is resistance training. This is she has like a weight vest. She uses it on her walking pad. And all that. So and then the eating. And I finally got her to do protein shakes because she wouldn't do protein shakes. But now I've got her to actually start drinking them. So she is doing the protein shakes. And just doing all the things. And like I said, us having this scale allows me to it reinforces, the fact that it's good, safe weight loss because of me being able to dive in and see the numbers. Even her hip to waist ratio. Because for women, it's a little bit different than men. Um, for men, they want to be below 0.90. For women, I think they want to be below like a 0.96, somewhere around there. I'll look at it later. And she's at like 0.94. So even her hip to waist ratio has changed. You know what I mean? But it's you can see the difference, striking difference. So, and she just gave me a picture of like our faces, like when we was on a date. I want to say probably last January, when we right around when we first, what was it, February? Might have been February. I don't know the date, but I got like a picture. I'm gonna post it later and post that later too. But we both had our faces in there, and then we went on a date like not too long ago, a few weeks back, and she, put both of us on that picture together. It's just like striking, like so. So there's that. That's our update. We had very good weeks. She lost 6 pounds. I lost almost. I want to say almost 4 pounds. You know what I mean? And same thing, mine was primarily fat. I didn't lose much muscle at all. Again, you lose a trivial amount of muscle each time, but we doing our thing. So I want to jump into the topic that I was talking about, fat-free mass, which I'm going to drop that the website for the FFMI fat-free mass indicator calculator, where people can actually go and type theirs in. Mine was at a 22, which means that I have above average muscle. So I'm not to follow this traditional BMI because it's not accurate, right? So what I want to talk about is, I'll read it, jump right into it. It's from the Regeneron Courage trial. So clinical trial exploring muscle sparing GLP-1 therapies, primarily pair GLP-1s with myostatin inhibitors, right? So a myostatin inhibitor is antibodies that block proteins from limiting muscle growth. Okay, these are antibodies that block proteins from limiting muscle growth, right? They're myostatin inhibitors. So notable phase 2 trials include Regeneron's Courage trial, testing trevogrumab, and proof of concept studies testing apitegromab, right? Now, some of these are so known as apitegromab. Now, these names are going to be a little bit weird because you haven't heard them. Like the tirzepatide, semaglutide. These are different different molecules that are being studied, different therapies that are being studied, and they're being actually combined, with tirzepatide. So both combinations significantly improve lean mass alongside GLP-1 use. The Courage trial, which is Regeneron's phase 2 study, tested semaglutide, and I misspoke, it's semaglutide. Semaglutide combined with trevogrumab, which is, like I said, an anti-myostatin antibody. The results indicated that the combination prevented half of the lean muscle loss typically seen on semaglutide. Apitegromab, a proof of concept trial, found that participants taking the antibody alongside tirzepatide lost half as much lean mass as those taking tirzepatide alone, with minor improvements in strength. So think about that. That's huge. This is without lifting weight to anything. Like, you know what I mean? You're saving your muscle. That's crazy. So just to be clear, let me go backwards. So the initial one that I spoke about, which is the trevogrumab, that is being combined with semaglutide, right? And then the other one, which is the apitegromab, is being combined with tirzepatide, okay? Those are the two, and they're being combined with semaglutide, tirzepatide. And then this one y'all heard about before because I brought this to the chat before. It was the bimagrumab, right? So, but listen to this. Bimagrumab, Eli Lilly tested bimagrumab with its weight loss drugs. However, Lilly discontinued one of the phases for strategic business reasons, while another trial in non-diabetics continued to progress. So this was not a thing because of a health risk. It was business. It was a business reason. But they do have another trial ongoing in non-diabetics. Preclinical advances. Stanford researchers are currently running preclinical and early trial evaluations on secondary compounds such as MF300, intended to help users rebuild muscle after damage while on GLPs. And according to The Cell reports medicine research, GLP-1 drugs cut fat more rapidly than muscle and do not disproportionately lower physical strength. So the good thing about this is we all know that from what I remember, the loss was probably in the 20s on the tirzepatide and then in the 30s percentile on the semaglutide for some. And that's through the total journey, right? So you don't lose a terrible amount of muscle. But with this, talking about actually seeing people get stronger and not lose anything, just imagine what that does for recon. Just imagine that. You're not losing no muscle. That's crazy. That means your body going to look, totally different, right? So I think these are very important things to talk about because it's super encouraging that they're happening, because these are things that we should talk about, because really, realistically, muscle is very important, especially as you get older, because a lot of the mortality rates increase as you get older based on falls. Like a lot of the seniors, they fall because they don't have that strength. So if you don't have the strength, to withstand, right, falls, a lot of times it's where we see early, premature death in older individuals, So the muscle is very important because I think that's where I also talk about not going too far and becoming underweight, right? Because a lot of times people could become underweight, on these medications, and you got to be very careful about that, because when you become underweight, you're losing muscle at that point. And muscle is way harder to get back, so don't lose it, it's super expensive. So the thing is, eat the protein, lift the weights, and then just have smart goals. You don't want to go so far that it actually bothers your structure, and you end up in trouble, because I have seen it, and I know you guys see it too, people in like 90 something pounds, stuff like that, that's just not, now, I mean, obviously if you're 4'10" or 4'11", you might can flirt with that, but, honestly, you probably could flirt with something like that, but you definitely don't want to be, getting that far down at average heights. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we know that adults probably shouldn't be that far down safely. You just want to be safe. You don't want to hit that underweight category, because just like we talk about obesity, let's not forget that underweight is also a problem too. That's where malnutrition and things like that cause other problems. And like I said, as you get older, it doesn't do well for your bone density. And you need strong bones and you need muscle. Right? Not even just so much for aesthetic reasons, but even just, nutritionally wise, and just to be strong enough for daily living, right? You want to be able to carry things, take care of yourself, protect yourself, lift things. So all of those things are very, very important, right? So what's the other thing I was talking about? Fat-free mass, right? Which is also on your scale, right? So let's make sure that we actually are paying attention to fat-free mass. So what is fat-free mass? Fat-free mass is the total weight of your body minus all stored fat mass, okay? So it includes your muscles, bones, internal organs, skin, and body water. Tracking fat-free mass helps confirm that weight changes come from fat rather than precious muscle, right? So what makes up your fat-free mass? What makes up the fat-free mass? So skeletal muscle, right? Skeletal muscle accounts for roughly half of your total fat-free mass, okay? Organs and visceral, including your brain, heart, liver, and kidneys. Your bones. Bones add structural skeletal weight. And water. Water comprises the fluid inside and outside your cells, right? So we don't need to know how to calculate it, because what we can do now is actually get on these smart scales we have. And if you don't, you definitely want to invest in one if you're on this journey, because it's vital, So I always tell people to cut back on the coffee and invest in the scale, because a lot of times I'm seeing them now for $180. And with the price of that, $10 cup of coffee, you spend a few weeks, without it, you can work your way into getting a scale, because this is much, much, much more viable, to your health than the coffee, right? So let's put the coffee down and get us a good scale so we can see our, see the proper numbers, right? So how are we supposed to maintain and increase fat-free mass, right? Lift weights 2 to 4 times a week using progressive overload to stimulate muscle retention or growth, right? I told you guys I'm lifting 4 days a week, sometimes 5, right? So, and using progressive overload. So that means that you stimulate your muscles, right? Because basically once something gets too easy to lift, right? And you like, let's say you constantly able to lift it very easily, you want to go up, slowly but surely, right? So for the most part, unless you're, very, very small, you probably want to get yourself somewhere in a range of like a 10-pound weight, right? You want a 10-pound weight, start there, maybe 8, 5, maybe not so much because that might be just a little too light. I mean, start there if you have to, but you probably want to like 8 to 10 pound. Kind of start with that. Get you an 8-pound and a 10-pound and see what you can do with that. If it is too heavy, then you can go to a 5. But you definitely want to like play in the range of that early on, starting out, and then progressively move up as it becomes easier. 15, 20, like that. 25, then 30. For the big boys. So, and then you want to your protein intake. You want to consume adequate amount of protein, roughly 1.6 kilograms or 0.7 grams of body weight to support lean tissue. And the thing is, your protein should match the goal weight, not your current weight, right? So if you're 300 pounds, you don't have to try to get 300 grams of protein. You want to get your goal weight, So if if you're 300, your goal weight is 180. That's what you want to shoot for. Shoot for 180 grams of your protein because you're maintaining your goal weight, not your current weight, right? Moderate deficits. So avoid extreme calorie drops during fat loss phases to prevent your body from breaking down muscle for energy. Okay? So when they say that, it's more so people that's eating less than 1,000 calories, right? People that's on, eating 700-800 calories a day, right? Because 600, 700, 800 calories is not enough to maintain you. You don't want to be without some sort of like extreme supplementation. You don't want to be eating in that low calorie because it's not enough to sustain your muscle, right? So we all want to make sure that we sustain these muscles, right? You get these big old muscles, you want to keep it, right? So I got the hump, right? I'm getting that hump. Before I had a hump, now I got the hump. Like it's starting to, I could put a little car on it. You know what I mean? You get that hump. But yeah, you definitely want to sustain those muscles. You know what I mean? That's the thing. You don't want to like do all of this, gain these muscles, and start losing it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's that, like I said, these are the things I wanted to hop in here and talk about tonight, just let you guys know to really focus on your muscle because we came a long way in the journey. We lost a lot of fat, and now we want to just make sure that we are maintaining our muscle, you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of times when you're first starting out and you got the big, giant weight, total body weight sitting on that scale, you just want to get down. So I know it's hard to really talk about this in the beginning, even though we probably would do ourselves more justice in the beginning. I definitely understand. You don't want the scale to be sitting and going up. This is a health show and not a gun show. Please put the get on out of here, Darren. Health show, not a gun show. But yes, so the thing is, you definitely want to make sure that you are, you know what I mean, like at some point, not just focusing on total body weight and start really focusing on your, actual muscle and breaking it down and then knowing that, hey, when I lose weight, I'm losing fat. I'm not losing my muscle because that's all that I'm about now going forward. At 214 pounds, I don't have much space, right? I mean, the most weight I could lose and feel good, I know is 20 pounds. I can't lose more weight than that. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm working with, and with my procedure, I'm going to lose 10 pounds doing that. So the thing is, I don't have much to lose. All I could lose is 10 pounds possibly, and that's over a 6-month period. So I could lose pretty much like, half a pound, less than a half a pound a week or, a couple pounds, 2 pounds a month. You know what I mean? Like I could lose like maybe 2 pounds a month, to be in a safe space for that. So I'm super ecstatic because that means that, I'm so close to like, the goal that I set out. Even if I did nothing, right? If I did absolutely nothing right now from this point on, but, after my, select surgery I'm electing to do in February, I would pretty much be sitting in the low 200s, 202, 203 pounds after that. After getting rid of this gallon of like fat, you know what I'm saying? That's in, subcutaneous fat. So, and in my head, like, I'm like, oh my God, I came all the way from 300 and nearly 20 pounds to this. It's crazy. It's crazy, you know, and that's why I put that picture up because it's striking. You know, the picture that I put for my thumbnail. You know, I know a lot of people do like the AI generated pictures. You know, I don't really love that stuff. You know, because my little 8-year-old, she really don't. 7-year-old, I'm talking about 8. She's 7. She don't like it either. She upstairs actually still. I gotta see if she sleep. It's at 10 o'clock. She was up there watching Michael because she never saw Michael, and she made it known to all of us. She said, well, you know, the older two, they went together and seen it. The 15-year-old and the 22-year-old, they went to see it. Soon to be 22, they went to see it together. Well, she just turned 22 actually. They went to see Michael, and then me and my wife went to see it, but she didn't go. So she was like, "Y'all seen it? I didn't." But now it's on TV, so she's up there watching it now. The thing is with the AI, I was talking about the AI pictures. She'd be like, "Oh, that's AI. Don't do it." You know. It's, oh yeah. So as far as that's concerned, I think that well, let me make sure I understand the question. So let me go back. If y'all got any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat because I'm pretty much done with my whole spiel. So if you guys want to drop anything in the chat, y'all go ahead, feel free, drop it in the chat, and then I'll answer it. Just put Q's in front of it. Let me go back to what Darren was saying. So Darren said, in a weight loss community, how do the newbies navigate looking beyond the number and think whole body? Any tips for the new folks? Yeah. The tip that I have for the new folk is to set very small goals. For brand new folk, I think that what they should do is focus on the very, very small goal for the current week, right? Every week you should have a goal. You know what I mean? That's like at work, right? Every week we start out with a task list of things that need to be accomplished this week, right? And you do them one day at a time. So I would say the two there's a few things. Number one, I want you to be prepared, right? Be more prepared than a lot of us were when we started because things evolved. So since things have evolved, the difference now is that I would say start out with a Renpho scan Nova, right? So that way you know the proper numbers. You know if you lose a muscle, you know you can see the difference. That's start because you got to know the numbers. Then you want to make sure that you're consistent. Take your shots. I only missed out of a whole 84 weeks. I missed this week 84. I'm pretty sure I'm going to week 84. I only missed 2 pins. One pin because I took it to the hotel and I put it in the refrigerator, which was silly. I should have just left it out on one I think Father's Day weekend or something like that. Me and my wife traveled, and I put it in the refrigerator and I should have just left it out, but it froze. And I was like, oh no. I was smart enough to say, hey, let me look at it. And I seen the little icicle in there. I said, oh, I want to shoot that and shoot no ice in my vein, right? So I shot that out in the sink. I said, that's no good, right? That was the one pin that I did miss back then. And then this year, I elected not to take the pin because of, me not feeling good. So I only missed 2 pins ever, And actually, I took that pin, but I took it late. But I'm just saying for my journey, it's probably 2 pins out of the 80-something pins. So after taking 80-some-odd pins, I'll tell you, keep taking your shot. If nothing else, take the shot. And I think Christopher over on the downsides, he'd always say that. Just take the shot, right? That's one part. And it's true because what I see is the longer you take this shot, the more you see. You know what I mean? You can really see what it does when it has, not a week, not a few weeks or a few months, but over a year and a half for me now, and more than a year and a half, and 2 years for some people, and 3 years, right? When you see people that have taken a shot for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, right, consistently, and a shot has had the opportunity to actually do for your body the healing that it needs, it's amazing. So I'm just saying, take it because you'll see it in your numbers, right? You're gonna see in your numbers, because I see it in my numbers. I have really good numbers. I'm actually when I put my numbers in Chat GPT and all that kind of stuff, it says my numbers aren't just normal, they're very good. You know what I'm saying? Now, not to say optimal. Now, I usually say the word optimal a lot because to me, as a 45-year-old black male that have obesity and hypertension, at least for, obesity all my life, but the hypertension and things like that for at least the last 20 years, right? 20 years probably. My numbers to me are optimal, you know what I mean? Because they're all beyond good. And that's what I mean. So if I put it in Chat GPT and it tells me, hey, because I put them in there often, just checking them. And it tells me that, hey, your numbers aren't just normal, they're very good, which is a step above normal, right? So optimal would be top, like right above that. But for me, they're very, very good, you know. And what I mean is like my A1C being at 5.2, and my liver. Like I got all the numbers, and I went over before. I'll do a number panel. I'll do a panel with that again. Probably next week I'll go over my numbers again. Because I did get new numbers. When I went to I had the whole thing going on back last month, and they all came back really good. So I'll go over that again. But all of my numbers are really good. My blood pressure is generally normal. You know, 120 over 80. 122 over 84. 120 over 80. 120. Like it's always 120 something over. You know what I mean? Like 80. Before 80 something. Before I used to be. Before when I wasn't on blood pressure medication, I've had times I was 185 over 110. Crisis mode, right? You know, and that was when it was at the worst, you know, and I caught that. Start taking medication, and then I've had times where I've been 160 over 100. But in general, like my regular blood pressure, even on medication, it used to be like 140 over 90 all the time. That was kind of like even on medication, you know. On a good week, you know, I get like 130s over like upper 80s. Now I'm in the 120s regularly over lower 80s, you know what I mean? Or even good, 120 over 80. Which is also why I still take amlodipine, because I also had a heart condition, and what it was is sort of kind of like a regular beat. And electrophysicists that I saw said, you know, I really didn't have to do something about it because it's okay. I see my cardiologist regularly. I had a cardiologist ultrasound. They also he also said that I didn't even need the ultrasound, but I got it anyway because again I like to see everything. That actually showed my heart normal, and I had like enlargements stuff. Like it's normal. My heart was all measurements and everything was normal. I was like, wow, like this. You know, my kidney function, my EGFR, the filtration rate, which is what we often look at. It was generally like in between in the 70s, like the low 70s. Now it's like upper 80s. You know what I mean? So, or I want to say, no, let me be lower 80s. Okay, it was in the lower 70s. Now it's in the lower 80s. So for my kidney function to actually go back 10 steps in filtration, it's just amazing. You know what I mean? These things are absolutely amazing. You know, it's literally changing you from the inside out. So for all new people, I would say take the medication, because if you give it time, it's going to actually do some stuff. Yeah, they say it's not a miracle. It's probably not a miracle, but it's darn sure close. Okay, for all the things that it does for you, you know, and not to mention what does it do mentally. You know, you hear a lot of stuff about the mental thing. I never had the mental thing, or at least I don't notice it. You know, as far as the mental thing, you know, with the brain fog and stuff. That's what I'm talking about. I've been really good, you know, so, and I'm on like the 15 milligram, and I've been taking that for months, you know. I think I started that back in like April, so I've taken several boxes. I do, like I said, get a 3-month supply, so, you know, that's also very good, you know what I mean? So I just say take your shot, get your proper scale, you know, and make sure that you do some resistance training and eat the right foods, and you'll be fine. And just have patience. Patience is huge. Patience, you just have patience, and you'll look better, feel better, and things will be better. So any questions, drop in the chat. You know, we're getting close to the time where I know I'll go ahead and bid everybody adieu, but I want to make sure I answered everything. So I'll go back, just check and see if there's any questions that I might have missed. Okay, yep. So no questions. Yeah, so again, like I said, check on that fat-free mass. I think that like I said, I had an amazing week, you know, with me losing nearly 4 pounds, my wife losing 6 pounds, and knowing that it wasn't fluid, you know what I mean? It was actually fat, you know what I mean? With a little teeny, you know, minuscule bit of muscle, obviously, because that's a part of it, part of your body. But it was primarily fat, you know, not just water weight. So that means that we both going in the right direction. Her being 5 foot, 142 pounds, and me being 6 foot at 214, we look like different people. You know what I mean? And we feel like different people. You know, we act like different people, and we live in like different. So I mean, it will change your life. So I implore anybody who actually is hesitant about taking weight loss medication to go ahead and take it, because it's, if you need it, you know, if you qualify, you know, for whatever reason that might be, whether that's sleep apnea, whether that's, you know, obesity, whether that's arthritis, you know, whether that's, you know, I can't say enough about that. Everybody know I had issues with my feet. And the thing is, after surgery, my one foot, the right foot been good. My left foot, where I also had pain in, I have had none. And I've been able to, like I said, walk a mile or 2 miles a day. I've been able to lift weights 4 or 5 times a week and be going up on that. You know, you're a little sore here and there, but nothing major. And it's literally changing my entire body, you know, changing my clothes, you know. The clothing size keeps shrinking, you know. This is an extra large. I wear extra large in my regular shirt, large in my undershirt, medium in the underclothes. So, you know, my pants are 34. You know, at some point at the end of this, I might be in the 32, which is crazy. You know what I mean? Like, just imagine that. I came all the way from a 42, 44 at times to possibly being able to wear 32 at some point, you know, probably. You know, because I imagine myself, if I do lose another 15 pounds, I will probably be in a 32, you know, which is crazy to even think about, you know, and a large shirt. And I came from a 3X, 4X sometime. So this is a total makeover. So I pat myself on the back for, you know, taking that first shot and just taking the leap and doing all of this and creating this channel and talking to people and encouraging others. And if y'all missed last week, I did talk about the encouragement that I've done for other people, you know, because in my other business, Boston Babe, you know, we have the annual event. We also have like weekly, not weekly, we have like we have like these events that we have from time to time, quarterly events. So that's the word I'm looking for, quarterly. And I had 3 people in a row, because the way we do it is kind of like speed dating. You sit down and the person tells you about their business or product or service, and you kind of like, you know, pour knowledge into them. And then what happened is, what they were doing is they were telling me because I always do a health segment, you know. So you guys can see a little bit of it in one of my shorts. So again, I implore you guys, go through my post, because I post a lot of things. Yeah, hey, appreciate that, Darren. So I had the one lady, right? And this is what's important, right? It came from the spouse. So the lady told me, she said, you know, Greg, I wanted to tell you. She said, you know, after you had that talk with all of the men at the last event, she said my husband, he started, you know, walking right after that. He walked 20,000 steps. He do 20,000 steps a day. She said he went down 2 clothing sizes. And he didn't even know it, because she said, I buy his clothes. She said, I bought him lower clothes. She said, hey, babe, you know, that's a large you got on. That's a large you got on. And you know, he like, what? She's like, yeah, you done went down 2 clothing sizes. And that's all from the conversation I had with the guys, you know. And then, right, I moved on to the next person. The lady, the guy told me, he said, you know, Greg, he said, you know, we the same age. I'm 45. He said, I'm 40, you 45. He said, you know, tell me you the colonoscopy and all that inspired me to go get mine checked. He said, I just had my colonoscopy, man. Everything's good. So I appreciate you. That was the second person. I was the third person. I moved on down the line to her. She said, you know, this is a lady. She said, Greg, you know, my husband went and went to the doctor after you had to talk with the men at the last event. She said, and he actually got, you know, they ran his numbers and they were able to kind of like shift some of his medication to optimize his health. And, you know, I wanted to thank you. She said, but that ain't it. She said, I also went, you know, for myself, because I knew I probably should go. And I found out I was diabetic. She said, I found out I was diabetic. She said, and guess what? Yesterday, because this was on a Saturday, she said Friday morning, she said, I took my first 2.5 shot of Manjaro. I said, wow, you know, clapping for her and stuff like that. Because again, look at what this, I mean, come on now. That's 3 people in a span of, and these were 2-minute conversations. It was time. In 6 minutes, that's 3 people that I impacted their lives from a conversation, right? From a conversation. So this is not in vain. You know, what we do here, what I'm doing here is not in vain, because you are impacting people's lives. And guess what? They'll never forget it. They will never forget it, because their lives going to be different because of what it is that that this information, you know. And how I look at it is, if not me, then who, right? That's how I look at it. When people say, well, wow, why are you doing all that? Because if not me, then who? Who going to do it? Who going to say it, right? So who going to tell the people? And it's actually needed, because look at that. This man start walking 20,000 steps a day. This guy got his colonoscopy, you know, because these are life-saving things. These are things that are going to impact longevity, you know. Same thing with the lady. She didn't even know she was diabetic. She didn't know. She actually went because I said, hey, you guys, you know, make sure you get these tests. She go get the test, found out she diabetic, and she on Manjaro. And here's the icing on the cake. I said, you just wait till, because our events are annual, right? I said, wait. I can't wait until our next event. Our events are in April, right? So I'm telling you, you're talking about 7, 8 months from now of taking Manjaro. Come on now. I know what it does after that long period of time of taking this and doing the right things, of course, what it is that she's going to look like and feel like at that time. Can't wait. Can't wait. So I'll leave you guys with that because I think that it was, super duper inspiring, and it was amazing to just learn that what I do impacted people in that way. So I'm happy about that. So if there's nothing else, there's no more questions, we will actually end here. I do appreciate you guys for hanging out with G's One of One. We'll be back next Sunday. I'll make sure I do a short in the middle of the week just to make sure the algorithm is happy. To keep things, interesting. But we'll be back next Sunday with all new updates and information. And, for now, I would like to say good night, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your night. And like I always like to end all my videos, Obesity Warriors stand up. We're in this together. Later. Good night, y'all.